and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. Have you ever wondered, are you the one? And I'm not referring to an old Jet Li movie with multiverses and all this other sci-fi stuff. I'm talking about with the lady that you're with. And I use that term loosely. Not with, lady. Because we've all been there. We have, hopefully. I don't know. I've had some comments on here of like, how dare you assume that I've actually had sex? More than I needed to know, bro. So, when you're not the one, you start seeing someone. And it's that high school lovey-dovey. You can't get enough of each other. You both think that the other person is just awesome. Years ago, I was seeing this girl. I tend to use that when you realize that they're just not a mature adult. So, I'm seeing this girl, single mom, 2 kids, ex, and we start hanging out, doing our thing, right? Relationships going on, and all of a sudden, she's, preggo. Me, I'm like, I'm in my 30s, and I'm thinking, well, at this point, I was starting to wonder if I was ever going to even have kids, right? Because divorced with that person 9 years, nothing happened. And then I start seeing someone else, and boom, like, it's there, right? So I start preparing myself mentally for this whole, like, I'm going to be a dad thing. And I start writing this kind of like journal letter thing that was like to my kid that's on the way. And I'm like trying to document everything as to like what's going on with me, and it was one of those things where like I didn't panic or freak out. I just embraced the situation and was like, okay, I guess this is happening. Then then she tells me that she had a checkup and that she had lost the baby. And this was early on. This was really early on, right? Like pretty much like a week after she told me. So like couple weeks along, maybe, right? And then she tells me that she has to have this procedure at Planned Parenthood. So this didn't make any sense to me. It's like this isn't something that they take care of at a hospital. Like you work at a hospital. This isn't something that they do there. You have to go to the 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 baby murder factory is where you have to go to have this procedure done for a baby that you lost, right? Some background on her. She always wanted to be an actress. Yeah. Except she was really horrible at lying. Really bad. Like, she would try to do that smile, and she's like, you trust me, right? Right? And I'm just like, no, because you're doing that thing, and like you're flat out fucking lying to me. And then they get all defensive because they're caught, like you're calling them out on their bullshit. And that's how this stuff went, right? Because you're not dealing with an adult, you're dealing with a child who likes to play fucking games. And so she ends up going to Planned Parenthood. And me, I'm devastated. And this is the sign, right, guys? Like, if it was some Chad, if it was her ex-husband who the marriage was ruined after he had an affair with one of his high school students, high school. I'm saying this correctly, not college, high school students. The guy should be in jail, but no, like, and we had that conversation. I'm like, so why isn't, and she's like, well, he's the father of my children, and I wouldn't get child support, and blah, blah, blah. And he has a career. And I'm like, I understand that high school girls are like getting close to being adults, but in my mind, this is still blanking a kid, right? Because under 18 can't consent, can be very easily manipulated into doing things, with an adult. So there's really no good people in this situation. And and so here I am thinking I'm going to be a dad. That's taken away. And then, you know, things move on after that, right? I try to forget about things. I had this ultrasound picture, kept it for a few years, and then it was just like after the relationship turned into a relationship, like that went away. It was like I can't dwell on this, like what she did is done, and like moving on, right? Like there's no funeral. I still to this day can't figure out like what exactly that place does with the remains, right? And there was a time. There definitely was a time where I was very like my logic with the whole abortion thing was I'm a dude. I don't have a vagina. Like there's no 9 months for me. And so in my mind, it was like, yeah, sure, cool. That's her decision, right? And looking back, it was a very easy way to just kind of write off the whole argument. But that's one thing that changed my mind was the whole like, wait a minute. So we did this together, and now you are just undoing it. And I don't have a say. So that was like one of the kickstarters of like changing my mind on the whole issue. And the other one was when my first daughter was born. Like somebody didn't just I don't know, suck her out with a vacuum and a rusty coat hanger. Um, my my oldest daughter, she was a micro preemie. And if you've heard this story before, this is the abridged version. So she was born at 23 weeks, eyes weren't even open yet, and had to be put in an incubator. But there was this moment before she was born where this nurse came into the room with me and my wife and had this conversation with us about how legally in the state of Michigan this baby's not viable, which I still don't understand this term. Like this is just a bullshit excuse to like once she's born you can still abort is was my understanding because they said we can comfortably place them in a room where nature takes its course. Okay, is a person with a punctured lung and several broken bones in a car accident viable? Are they able to take care of themselves? No. They go to a trauma room and you do what you can in order to save their lives and hopefully get them back somewhere to where they were before the accident happened. But for some reason, with a child, whether it's born early or it has some defect, Like, this is a thing, a conversation that they have with people at the hospital. This one really changed my mind, right? And I don't know if it was because of what had happened before with the ex girlfriend, but when she was born, like, I don't even think we finished the conversation with the nurse. I just looked at her and said, do whatever it is you have to do. And then when my daughter was born, they put her into an incubator. She was taken to the NICU. And for 91 days, I was there every day. If I wasn't at work, if I wasn't sleeping, I was in her room with her. And the whole point was to make sure that she actually left the hospital with us and came home with her family. But this whole rights thing. We all know that women will willingly have a child with the biggest piece of crap that we can spot in a room, right? Like, they will gravitate towards that guy, no relationship, get pregnant, and have their baby, hoping that this is going to be a, as they say in the rap culture, a keep a baby. You can fill it in with the N word if you want. There's an A at the end. But a keep a blank baby, right? And they do this all the time. But when they're with a nice guy, the good guy that they always claim that they want to have, especially later in life, oh, nope, this was a mistake. I'm not ready. You've already had two. I'm not ready with you. That's the key point. That's what you need to add to the end of any sentence she says while she's trying to explain why she's not willing to have your kid. Because if that comes up, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to be a dad. Unless you're one of these douchebags that's just like, you know, maybe an abortion is a good idea. And you're trying to talk her into it, right? But if you're one of those guys that's just like, I guess this is happening, that's when she's like, I'm not ready with you. This isn't the right time with you. Because that's the real issue. She wasn't planning on having your kid. She wants to have Chad and Tyrone's kid. And that's when you're not the one. That's the reality. I knew this couple when I lived downstate. And they were the same age as me. They had gotten married probably around the same age as me and my ex-wife. And I remember the wife was talking to my wife about how, like, when she had first met her husband, things happened early on. But she wasn't ready yet, so she had it taken care of. And how it was the right decision. They weren't ready. They weren't mature yet. And of course, I'm hearing this whole story. And I'm thinking, like, you're not mature now, and you still don't have a kid. Like, when the fuck are you going to be ready to have a kid? Like, you're actually, come to think of it, I think they were slightly older than us. So they're already in their 30s, and they still didn't have a kid yet. And a couple years later, they eventually did have a kid. And then she divorced him anyways. Like, after the kid was born, they moved out of state. They had this piece of property. I don't know what happened with that. They ended up having a girl. And then all of a sudden, they're fucking divorced. And I'm like, was this retirement plan? Like, what is the scoop here? Because you weren't ready to have the kid early on. You had the kid later on. And then once you had the kid, you decided to just fucking decimate the household. Was he not the one? I don't know. It's a good question. Because she was married to the guy. And I don't know. There's always that question of, like, was it even his? Like, is that the whole point of the divorce? Like, like, hey, we're having a baby. And he's just kind of like, huh? So, yeah. When you're not the one, even when they marry you, you're not the one. There is no one. There isn't. That's the other math you have to add to the equation, right? Because there's the one at the time. That's what it is, at the time. And this is why you never marry a communist, because you're basically doing a timeshare with everyone, because she doesn't belong to you. She belongs to everyone. That's the communist way, right? It's not your property, it's the people's property. And that's basically what her vagina is the people's property. She hands it out willingly to anybody that catches her eye. Occasionally she might marry a dude, but that's really just what? Like financial insurance right there. Maybe a retirement plan. Well, when he gets that bonus and we have enough equity into the house, that might be the time to cash in. So yeah, when you're not the one, there's signs, right? That's a big one. When she's willing to go to the baby murder factory in order to take care of your kid, because it's your kid, right? And when they do that after they've already had someone else's kid, who's a royal piece of shit. Well, I didn't know at the time. Okay, so why are you getting rid of this dude's kid? The nice guy, the good guy that you wanted to be with. I don't get it. Don't understand it. This is just what I've learned over time. Keep on typing.